Hey there, dreamers. Welcome back to Hypothetical, the cozy corner where we drift through the wonders of our world, softly and curiously. I'm so happy you've decided to spend a quiet moment, whether it's night, morning, or that calm in between, unwinding here with me. Settle in, perhaps find a warmth of blanket or a comfortable curve in your favorite chair, and allow your thoughts to drift like leaves carried on a gentle current. There's a unique hush that falls when we contemplate the very old. It's the kind of stillness you might feel standing in an ancient forest, where the moss clings to gnarled bark like an emerald cloak, and the air itself feels thicker, heavy with untold seasons. Or perhaps it's the quiet reverence that comes from looking up at a sky full of stars, each distant twinkle a luminous memory stretching across unthinkable expanses of time and space. That same hush, that same invitation to a deep, contemplative stillness, visits us when we begin to muse upon the story held within the earth itself. Imagine for a moment the world not as it is now, but as a vast, living tapestry woven through millennia. Think of geological time, not as a rapid succession of events, but as an impossibly slow breath. Each inhale and exhale stretches over millions of years, shaping landscapes, lifting mountains, sculpting coastlines, and painting new colours onto the canvas of the continents. Through these immense deliberate rhythms, life itself unfurled, blossoming in myriad forms, then fading, then blooming anew, leaving its indelible marks upon the very substance of the planet. It's a silent, ceaseless opera, unfolding across stages vaster than our minds can easily grasp, yet every act, every pause, every quiet shift holds a universe of delicate detail. We often perceive the distant past as a blurry watercolour, difficult to bring into sharp focus, but sometimes, just sometimes, the Earth herself acts as the most patient of archivists, preserving snapshots of those vanished eras with an astonishing clarity. These preserved moments, these echoes of lives long extinguished, arrive in our present not as hurried proclamations, but as whispers. These are the whispers of fossils' petrified dreams, mineralized memories, hushed chronicles of a world entirely different, yet intricately linked to our own. To truly appreciate these gifts from deep time, we must learn to listen to their quietude. It's a slow practice, much like learning to watch a flower open petal by delicate petal. We might imagine the vast forests that once sprawled, unlike anything we see today, filled with life both immense and minuscule. Picture the filtering sunlight, a deeper emerald green as it pierces through prehistoric fronds, dappling the undergrowth where ancient creatures stir. Feel the warmth of a tropical sun on scales, the rumble of colossal feet, or the delicate stir of wings in an atmosphere far removed from our own. These scenes aren't simply painted on the canvas of imagination. They are hinted at, painstakingly reassembled from the careful arrangement of bone, impressions of skin, or even the preserved outlines of tiny leaves pressed into ancient stone. The act of discovering a fossil is, in itself, a journey back through this slumbering ocean of time. It might begin with the soft crunch of a boot on dry shale, or the subtle glint of a dark shape against a sun-baked cliff face. There's an undeniable reverence that accompanies the slow chipping away of sediment, the patient dusting brush, revealing layer after delicate layer. It's not merely uncovering an object, it's uncovering a narrative, a testament, a direct portal to a moment frozen in eons past. Each ridge, each texture, each curve speaks not with a voice, but with a silent presence, conveying something profound about the life it once embodied. These ancient treasures arrive from depths of time that confound our everyday understanding. When we hold a fossil, we are not simply holding a piece of rock, we are cradling a fragment of something that once pulsed with life, breathed, moved, perhaps even hunted, under skies we can only faintly imagine. It's a tangible link across the unbridgeable chasm of millions of years. And the sheer weight of that connection, the profound reality of it, can evoke a kind of quiet astonishment. It humbles us, reminding us of the enduring cycles of life and extinction that have shaped our planet long before our brief arrival. Within these ancient stones, these calcified echoes, lies an incredible library of information, written not in ink but in minerals. Paleontologists, with their meticulous patience and keen eyes, are the librarians of this astonishing archive. They interpret the subtle clues left behind, the shape of a vertebra, the imprint of a plant, the telltale grooves of a footprint. Each piece is a fragment of a larger story, gradually pieced together over years, sometimes generations, allowing us to glimpse worlds we thought forever lost. And what these stories often reveal is the magnificent, often surprising, resilience and inventiveness of life itself. But not every whisper from the past is solely about resilience or graceful adaptation. Some stories, though delivered with the same silent gravity, hold within them a profound kind of starkness, a truth that makes us pause and reflect on the unvarnished reality of the primeval world. Imagine a world where life's beauty often intertwined with a raw, elemental force, where survival was a moment-to-moment dance, where every existence, grand or minute, played out under the immense, indifferent gaze of a boundless nature. Sometimes, the revelations nestled within these fossils aren't merely astounding, they are utterly arresting. They reveal moments of pure, unfiltered being, stripped of all artifice, showing life at its most vulnerable, its most powerful, its most defining. It's not a narrative meant to shock, but rather to reveal the full, complex tapestry of an ancient ecosystem. Its beauty, its inherent wildness, its cyclical, inevitable unfolding of events. These are the stories that, even through the quiet filters of deep time and mineral transformation, manage to touch a nerve of profound awareness within us, making us truly feel the distant pulse of that vanished earth. And sometimes one particular discovery can emerge from the silent depths, so remarkably preserved, so uniquely revealing, that it holds a kind of sobering power, inviting us to contemplate the profound truths woven into the very fabric of existence, from its earliest dawn until this very tranquil moment. It asks us, with an almost startling clarity, to consider what it truly means for life to exist within such vast, ancient parameters, under laws both wondrous and utterly inescapable. And so we journey back, not merely hundreds, nor even thousands of years, but vastly further into a forgotten expanse of time, where the very continents wore different guises, and the air hummed with sounds unfamiliar to our modern ears. Imagine a world draped in a verdant cloak of fern and cycad, under skies that stretched unbroken for vast distances, traversed only by the whisper of prehistoric winds. It was a time of immense slow-motion change, a crucible where life unfolded in grand, magnificent forms. Here, in the sun-dappled clearings and shadowed swamps, colossal creatures roamed, living out lives that defy the easy grasp of our contemporary minds. We are speaking, of course, of the age of dinosaurs, a chapter of Earth's story so sprawling that it's almost beyond our capacity to truly internalize. These were not swift flashes in geological time, but epochs spanning perhaps 180 million years, during which the planet was host to a lineage of animals that dominated almost every niche, from towering forests to ancient coastlines. Picture the air itself, thick with the scents of unknown blossoms and decaying foliage, a primal aroma that would speak of deep time and immense biological activity. The ground beneath their enormous feet would have vibrated with each thunderous step of a sauropod, or rustled with the quick movements of smaller, more nimble forms. Sunlight would filter through the towering canopies of trees long extinct, dappling the undergrowth where a silent hunter might be patiently waiting. Our only windows into this astonishing lost world are the silent, stony relics left behind. Fossils. These are not merely bones, but rather petrified whispers from an unimaginable past, preserved by a rare and precious conspiracy of circumstances. They are the stories etched into the very fabric of the earth, waiting patiently for careful eyes and gentle hands to unearth and interpret them. Think of the immense slow grind of geology, the subtle shifts of continents, the inexorable flow of water and sediment, all working in unison over unimaginable stretches of time to encase and protect these priceless fragments. It's a profound thought. The remains of a creature, living out its life millions of years ago, can lie dormant, undisturbed beneath layers of rock, until perhaps a crack appears in a cliff face, or the steady erosion of a riverbank reveals a subtle hint of its existence. The journey of a fossil, from living tissue to stone relic, is itself a wonder. It typically begins with a sudden cessation of life, a creature falling into an environment where decay is slowed, perhaps a quiet pond, a river delta, or a sand dune. Sediments, fine grains of earth carried by water or wind, gently begin to cover the remains, layer upon layer, building up over centuries, then millennia. The weight of these new layers compresses the ones beneath, squeezing out water, turning soft mud into hard shale, or loose sand into solid sandstone. Meanwhile, underground water, rich with dissolved minerals like silica or calcite, slowly seeps through the porous bones and other tissues. Over time, these minerals replace the organic matter, atom by atom, until the original structure of the bone, or even the soft tissues, is perfectly recreated in stone. This is not a fast process, but a silent glacial alchemy. And because of its precise demands, the vast majority of life that has ever graced our planet leaves no such trace. What we find, therefore, are truly gifts precious glimpses into moments that otherwise would have vanished without a trace. Those who seek these silent historians of the past, the paleontologists, are rather like patient detectives, poring over clues left by an enormous and ancient crime scene. Their tools are not so much hammers and chisels, though those certainly have their place, but rather sharp eyes, boundless patience, and a deep understanding of geological time and biological form. Imagine the slow, painstaking work, walking vast, arid landscapes under a searing sun, eyes sweeping across exposed rock faces, searching for just the slightest change in colour or texture, a faint striation that hints at something hidden beneath. It is a dialogue with the earth itself, a quest for the fragments of stories told long, long ago. There's no sudden glory in most of it, but rather a quiet dedication, a deep satisfaction in brushing away another grain of sand to reveal a curve of bone that hasn't seen the light of day for 100 million years. And once a promising sign is found, the careful excavation begins. It's often a ballet of gentle hands and specialized instruments, tiny picks, brushes, dental tools, all employed with the utmost care to slowly free the delicate stone from its rocky embrace. Each unearthed piece is a puzzle, one fragment of a much larger, often incomplete picture. Sometimes it might be a single tooth, perfectly preserved, hinting at the bite force of its ancient owner. Other times it might be a section of a rib, curved elegantly, suggesting the enormous bulk of the animal it once belonged to. And, on exceedingly rare and thrilling occasions, a largely complete skeleton, lying perhaps exactly as it fell, tells a silent story of its final moments. From these fragments, these stony echoes, scientists weave together intricate tapestries of ancient life. They examine the subtle angles of articulation between bones, discerning how limbs once moved, how the spine supported weight, how muscles were likely anchored. They study the shapes of teeth, inferring the diet of the creature, a serrated blade for tearing flesh, or a broad flat surface for grinding tough plant matter. Even the tiniest grooves and ridges on a bone can speak volumes, perhaps indicating the presence of ligaments, or where arteries once coursed, bringing life-giving blood to vital organs. It's an exercise in profound imagination, guided by rigorous scientific observation, to see a bone, and then to envision the living animal, pulsating with blood and breath, moving with purposeful intent across an ancient landscape. This is the essence of paleontology. We infer their behaviours, how they might have hunted, how they defended themselves, how they reared their young, by carefully analysing the physical evidence and drawing parallels with creatures alive today or with similar anatomical structures. It's a dance between the known and the unknown, always pushing the boundaries of what we can reliably reconstruct. And as we peer deeper into these ancient stories, the focus inevitably shifts towards the raw realities of prehistoric existence. Life in the Mesozoic era, while undeniably wondrous, was also relentlessly unforgiving. Survival was a daily, often brutal endeavour. The magnificent, thriving ecosystems we imagine were not serene paradises, but rather intricate webs of competition, predation, and relentless environmental pressure. Every organism, from the smallest insect to the largest sauropod, was engaged in a continuous struggle to secure resources, reproduce, and avoid becoming another's meal. This isn't a judgment on the morality of these creatures, but simply an observation of the fundamental forces that drive all biological systems. Life consumes life, and in that exchange, the ancient world found its dynamic balance. Predators, the architects of some of nature's most dramatic interactions, stalked the forests and plains. Creatures designed for efficient capture and killing-sharp claws, powerful jaws, keen senses, played their vital role in controlling populations and ensuring the vigour of prey herds. And the prey animals, in turn, developed their own formidable defences: speed, camouflage, armour, herd mentality, or sheer size. It was a constant evolutionary arms race, each side pushing the other towards greater specialization and more effective strategies for survival or destruction. Think of a herd of titanic plant-eaters, moving slowly, deliberately through a primeval forest, their every instinct alert to the possibility of a sudden rush from the shadows. The air itself might have carried the scent of a nearby predator, a subtle warning ignored at peril. And beyond predation, the ancient world also knew the harsh hand of natural calamity and disease. Volcanoes erupted, shaking the very foundations of the earth and altering climates. Earthquakes tore the ground asunder, perhaps diverting rivers and changing the contours of the land. Droughts stretched across vast plains, parching the earth and dwindling water sources, forcing migrations or leading to widespread starvation. Storms of unimaginable intensity would have scoured coastlines and inland territories. And amidst all this, just as today, diseases, parasites and infections would have silently worked their insidious ways through populations, weakening individuals, taking lives in a slow, relentless drain, rather than a sudden, violent strike. These forces, often less dramatic than a predator's charge, were no less potent in shaping the fate of these ancient behemoths. It's in understanding this backdrop of fierce, unceasing competition and environmental challenge that we begin to fully appreciate the silent messages held within the fossil record. A simple fracture in a bone isn't just a break, it might be the echo of a sudden fall, a desperate escape, or a blow from a rival during a territorial dispute. A tooth mark on a fossilized bone tells a story of an interaction, sometimes deadly, sometimes merely an unfortunate encounter. A skeleton found curled unnaturally can hint at the agonizing grip of illness. or a slow demise under difficult conditions. Each imperfection, each sign of struggle, each indicator of life interrupted, adds a brushstroke to the expansive mural of the Mesozoic. As paleontologists meticulously study these vestiges, they learn to differentiate between a clean kill, where one creature overpowered another, and perhaps a more complex narrative, a scavenged carcass, for example, bearing the marks of multiple diners, or a struggle where both combatants suffered grievous injuries. The absence of specific bones can tell a story too, perhaps of partial consumption by scavengers, or the effects of environmental degradation over millions of years. This slow, methodical piecing together of information, always open to revision and new evidence, is how we construct our narratives of the deep past. It's less about dramatic pronouncements and more about quiet, persistent observation, connecting the smallest dots across an impossibly large canvas. We return always to the raw data, the stones themselves. But our understanding transcends mere geological forms. It touches on biology, ecology, and even the philosophy of life itself. The shapes of a creature's eye sockets might tell us whether it was a diurnal hunter or a nocturnal prowler, perhaps seeking out its prey under the soft glow of a primeval moon. The subtle patterns of wear on a tooth, studied under a powerful microscope, can reveal the precise types of plants it chewed, or the specific textures of flesh it tore. The very angles of an ancient footprint, preserved in solidified mud, can inform us about its gait, its speed, and even whether it moved in a solitary hunt or as part of a protective herd. All these tiny details accumulate, forming a composite picture, growing richer with each new discovery, each new interpretation. The quest to understand these ancient lives often pushes our human biases to the fore. We tend to project our modern sensibilities onto their world, sometimes seeing it through lenses of grandeur or horror that weren't necessarily theirs. But the most revealing discoveries are often those that force us to look beyond these human filters to appreciate the simple, brutal, and elegant functionality of nature's designs. To witness, through these fossils, the very real suffering, the desperate struggles, the intricate ballets of life and death, is to touch something profoundly true about our planet's history. It sets the stage for appreciating just what kind of profound, perhaps even deeply unsettling, scariest thing the vastness of time and geological chance might preserve for us to find. And so we turn our gaze inward, beyond the broad strokes of existence that paint entire epochs, to the intimate whispers locked within the stone itself. We have journeyed through the foundational concepts, feeling the dust of ages settle upon us. Now, let us embark upon a deeper current, allowing the ancient waters to carry us slowly into the heart of what lies hidden within these stony remnants. A journey into the discoveries that, perhaps, carry a weight beyond their mere material presence, a stillness that borders on the profound, and yes, even the subtly unnerving. Imagine a sun-drenched plain in what we now call Mongolia, perhaps 65 million years ago. A small bipedal creature, barely larger than a swan, scuttles low through the undergrowth, its quick movements almost a blur, its eyes keen and dark, dart constantly, betraying a perpetual vigilance. This creature, a velociraptor, is an embodiment of lethal grace. Not far off, a larger, more heavily built animal, a protoceratops, grazes serenely, its horned frill a silent, formidable shield. The air is warm, the scent of crushed ferns hangs heavy. Suddenly, the silence is broken by a low snarl, then a guttural shriek. The dance of predator and prey has begun. A blur of movement and sound, claws and beaks, a desperate, final struggle for existence. We will never truly hear that ancient cry, nor feel the earth tremble beneath their entangled bodies. But sometimes, very rarely, the earth itself holds on to a whisper of such moments. freezing them in time with an eerie fidelity. It is these moments, precisely these moments of stark, unadorned reality, that constitute some of the most startling discoveries nestled within dinosaur fossils. For when we gaze upon ancient bones, what we often anticipate is simply the majestic architecture of a long-vanished anatomy, the colossal femur, the intricate spine, the sweeping curve of a rib. We expect to see the blueprint of a powerful being, yet sometimes the stone reveals more. It tells not just of existence, but of experience. It shows the very scars of life lived, and of life abruptly extinguished. And in these silent etchings, there can be found a profound disquiet, a feeling of peering too deeply into a past that was not always peaceful or serene, but often brutal and unrelenting. Consider for a moment the very structure of a bone. It is a testament to life, a dynamic tissue that responds, adapts, and bears the load of existence. When we see a bone perfectly preserved, unblemished, it speaks of an animal that, at least in that isolated moment, moved unhindered, a creature in its prime. But what happens when that pristine surface is marred? What stories are scrawled across its ancient canvas, disrupting the elegant curves with jagged lines or unwelcome protuberances? This is where the truly unsettling often begins. We find wounds, not simply fractures, but injuries that carry the distinct signature of another creature's fury. Picture the skull of a triceratops, a fortress of bone designed to withstand incredible forces. Its formidable frill and 3 sharp horns present a powerful defense. Now, imagine a specific instance, preserved not in myth or memory, but in rock itself. A section of this massive frill bears an enormous U-shaped gouge, precisely matched to the powerful bite of a Tyrannosaurus rex. It's not just a break, it's a crater of impact, a testament to unimaginable pressure. We can almost hear the cracking, feel the wrenching pain of such an attack. And what makes this particular type of scar so profoundly impactful, so quietly unsettling, is that sometimes such wounds show evidence of healing. This means the Triceratops, though gravely injured, survived the encounter. It carried this indelible mark for the remainder of its days, a silent, stony badge of an extraordinary close call. To contemplate such a healed wound is to journey into the realm of ancient suffering. The healing process would have been slow, agonizing. Infection would have been a constant, life-threatening risk. For days, weeks, perhaps even months, this immense creature would have borne its injury, its movements likely laboured, its foraging more difficult, its existence punctuated by a chronic ache. And yet it persevered. The bone cells slowly, painstakingly, rebuilt the shattered framework, forming callus, remodelling the damaged architecture, creating a testament to resilience even as it bears witness to terrifying violence. This isn't just a fact. It's a silent epic written in ossified tissue, a story of the unforgiving realities of an ancient world where every day was a negotiation with hunger, and every shadow could conceal a deadly threat. The very scary part here isn't just the image of a violent attack, but the persistent echo of profound, silent endurance that speaks across 60 million years. These fossilized bite marks often come with their own distinct characteristics. They aren't random nicks. They tell of intention, of specific predators. The deep, parallel furrows left by serrated teeth speak of creatures designed for tearing flesh, like the fearsome megalodon of the seas or the great theropod dinosaurs of the land. We can even infer the size and age of the attacker, a ghost summoned by the very contours of its ancient weaponry. Some bite marks are shallow, indicative of exploratory bites, perhaps a predator testing its prey or investigating a carcass. Others are crushing, perforating, signifying a kill bite, aimed at severing vital arteries or shattering key skeletal structures. The silent fossil, then, becomes a tableau, presenting the final frame of an action movie we will never fully see, its protagonists locked in a dance of life and death. Which brings us to an even more chilling category. Wounds inflicted not by a predator from another species, but by a rival from its own kind. Imagine the colossal scale of such internal conflicts. Many large dinosaurs, particularly theropods like Tyrannosaurus rex, show evidence of intraspecific combat. The heavy, bone-crushing jaws of a T-Rex were not just for hunting hadrosaurs. They were sometimes turned against rivals for territory, mates, or dominance. We find skulls with enormous punctures, often on the robust bones of the head and face, indicating direct, head-on confrontations. These aren't accidental skirmishes. They speak of ferocious duels, of titans clashing, roaring challenges echoing across prehistoric landscapes. Think of a young Tyrannosaurus, still growing into its full might, engaging in a territorial dispute with an older, more seasoned male. The sheer impact of a blow from such a beast defies easy comprehension. The bones of the face might be scraped, gouged, or even punctured clean through. Again, the wonder and quiet terror comes when we find these injuries partially or fully healed. The bone around the wound has calloused, telling us that the animal lived for some time after this brutal encounter. It survived the crushing blow, the excruciating pain, the risk of infection. The scariest element here is the stark revelation that even among their own kind, there was no guaranteed solace or safety. That ancient lives, for many species, were a continuous struggle, often violent, sometimes unto death. It paints a picture of a world both awe-inspiring in its scale and chilling in its constant underlying struggle. These direct signs of ancient combat, whether interspecies or intraspecific, lead us gently into a deeper realm of quiet horror, the world of diseases and ailments that afflicted these colossal creatures. When we think of dinosaurs, we often envision them as perfect, powerful, unburdened by the vulnerabilities that plague life today. But the stone, in its meticulous way, dispels this romantic notion. Dinosaurs were biological organisms, susceptible to all the failings of flesh and bone. Picture a slow, lumbering sauropod, its massive body supported by pillars of bone. Perhaps, somewhere within that immense frame, an insidious process began, silently consuming its vital architecture. For when we examine some fossilized bones with the aid of modern scanning technology, what we sometimes discern are patterns of internal disease. Take, for instance, a rare find, a section of what appears to be a cancerous growth, distorting the natural flow of the bone, an irregular, painful mass. It isn't merely a broken bone, it is the evidence of uncontrolled, destructive growth within a living creature, a malignant presence twisting the very structure meant to provide support. Imagine the discomfort, the dull, throbbing ache that would accompany such a condition, slowly escalating over days or weeks, robbing the magnificent animal of its former ease of movement, sapping its strength. We cannot know for certain the precise extent of its suffering, though the visual evidence speaks of significant disfigurement and disruption to the bone's healthy function. This pushes beyond mere survival to a quiet contemplation of suffering itself, a shared, ancient vulnerability. The cancer doesn't care about the creature's immense size or its dominance in its ecosystem. It is a biological force unto itself, working from within, and to find such evidence, millions of years later, frozen in stone, is a somber reminder of the universal struggles of all life, even in an epoch so profoundly distant. Beyond cancer, other less dramatic but equally debilitating ailments reveal themselves. Arthritis, for instance, silently grips the joints, transforming smooth articulation into a grating, painful stiffness. We see evidence of it in fused vertebrae, roughened joint surfaces, and abnormal bone growths where tendons and ligaments attach. A diplodocus, perhaps, that found each step increasingly arduous, its mighty neck and tail now sources of persistent pain rather than fluid grace. A T-Rex that found its powerful jaw, once so efficient a killing tool, now clicking and aching with every bite, making the hunt for food a truly grueling ordeal. These aren't immediate, violent deaths. These are the long drawn-out erosions of quality of life, silent testimonies to the relentless march of time and decay upon a living body. The scariest aspect isn't the drama, but the quiet, relentless, inescapable deterioration. Then there are the infections, perhaps born from an unhealed wound, a parasitic intrusion, or a compromised immune system. Osteomyelitis, an infection of the bone marrow itself, can leave distinctive pockmarks, swollen sections and areas of decay within the fossilized bone. Picture the internal torment as such an infection spreads, inflaming tissues, producing pus, eating away at the very core of the skeletal structure. The dinosaur would have developed a fever, felt weakness, and endured an insidious, pervasive pain that gnawed at its strength. We sometimes see holes in bones, cloacae and involucra, which are channels where pus would have drained from the infected bone graphic, though silent, evidence of an ancient biological battle waged against invasive microbes. To uncover such detailed proof of disease is to touch a raw, universal truth about the fragility of life, even in its most spectacular manifestations. It reminds us that no creature, however mighty, is entirely exempt from the silent invaders and internal struggles that accompany existence. And these internal narratives often extend beyond disease to the more intimate details of daily life and internal biological processes. Imagine a scientist perhaps working late in a quiet, lamp-lit laboratory, carefully examining a newly discovered fossilized specimen. It might not even be a bone, but rather a coprolite fossilized dung. On the surface, perhaps an unremarkable find. Yet, when sliced thin and examined under the lens of a microscope, a universe of hidden information unfurls. It is here that we sometimes find a startling, even unsettling level of detail about the inner workings and unseen denizens of these ancient beings. A coprolite from a Tyrannosaurus rex, for instance, can contain bone fragments from its last meal, providing direct, undeniable evidence of its diet. We can identify the specific type of prey, perhaps even the age of the unfortunate creature it consumed. But sometimes within this same coprolite, something far more subtly unsettling emerges. Small fossilized parasites. Tiny resilient forms of life that once inhabited the gut of the enormous predator, unseen by it, but quietly benefiting from its massive meals. These internal residents, whether ancient roundworms, tapeworms, or protozoa, offer a silent, stark reminder of the ubiquitous nature of parasitic relationships, a dynamic that spans all biological time. The discovery isn't graphic, but the implication is even the most fearsome apex predator was host to a hidden world of organisms constantly vying for resources within its colossal frame. It is an invasion, microscopic and enduring, an echo of vulnerability from deep time. Further still, within these rare fossil finds, the details become almost unnervingly intimate. Occasionally, through exceptionally rare conditions of preservation, we encounter instances of what seem to be fossilized soft tissues. This is a true rarity for the soft parts of an animal. The muscle, organs, skin, blood vessels are usually the first to decompose, fading away into the grand recycling of the natural world. But sometimes, when conditions are just right, perhaps a rapid burial in fine sediment, an ashfall that sealed out oxygen, or exposure to mineral-rich waters, these ephemeral components leave their impressions, or sometimes, even more astonishingly, mineralized remnants. Consider the interior of a skull. What often survives is the sturdy bone housing the most vital organ, the brain. We rarely find the brain itself, of course, but what we sometimes find is an endocast, a natural cast of the brain cavity, often revealing surprising details about the shape and structure of the brain itself. To look upon the fossilized outline of a creature's brain is to look upon the seat of its thoughts, its instincts, its perception of its world. It is the closest we come to the consciousness of an animal that vanished millions of years ago. There's an undeniable chill in gazing at the ancient contours that once housed the commands for movement, the interpretation of sensations, the primitive drives of hunger and fear. It is like looking at a ghostly mirror of an absent mind, an intensely personal and uncomfortably revealing relic, and sometimes the intimacy deepens further. Picture the paleontologist's brush revealing not bone, but the exquisite pattern of fossilized skin, scales textured and intricate, or even the subtle traces of feathery down imprinted onto the surrounding rock like a ghostly photograph. It transforms the creature from a skeletal diagram into something more visceral, more real. One is no longer merely looking at the framework, one is glimpsing the living surface, the protective barrier, the outer manifestation of its physical presence. The textures, the wrinkles, the individual scale patterns, they speak of movement, of sensory contact with ancient air and water, of sun on hide. It's a momentary breathtaking illusion that these creatures might almost still be present, and it carries a peculiar sense of intrusion, a quiet violation of the barrier of time. Then there is the chilling spectacle of life arrested in motion. We return to our imaginary scene of the velociraptor and protoceratops, but now envision the precise moment of their struggle. Frozen, the velociraptor's claw embedded in the protoceratops's neck, the protoceratops' powerful beak still clamped around the arm of its attacker, their bones intertwined, articulated in the eternal tableau of combat. They didn't die separately and later come to rest in the same spot. They died together, locked in a final embrace of fury, perhaps entombed rapidly by a sudden sand dune collapse, or a swift flood that sealed their violent theatre for eternity. This particular fossil, famously known as the fighting dinosaurs, unearthed in the Gobi Desert, is one of the most poignant and unsettling discoveries in all of paleontology. It is not just the fact of their struggle that impresses, it is the utter finality, the helplessness of that abrupt end. No victor, no vanquished, just two primal forces consumed by a sudden geological event utterly indifferent to their desperate efforts. The fear, the instinctual surge for survival, the final breaths, all caught, soundlessly, irrevocably, within the matrix of the stone. It's a snapshot of primal struggle, stripped of sound and motion, leaving only the profound stillness of an ancient tragedy. The deep chill is in contemplating that ultimate loss of agency, the crushing force of nature, indifferent to individual destinies. And this concept of sudden, catastrophic preservation extends to other scenarios, each painting a picture of overwhelming force. Imagine a herd of smaller, nimble dinosaurs, perhaps juveniles, running across a mudflat during a storm. Suddenly, the ground beneath them liquefies, turning into quicksand or a rapidly flowing mudslide. Panic ensues. They struggle, but the viscous earth sucks them down. Hours later, perhaps days, the mud dries, hardens, preserving their final moments of terror and exhaustion, their last desperate movements. Such an event is revealed in finds of multiple animals found together, not merely interred post-mortem but articulated as if in mid-movement, or piled haphazardly, indicative of a mass burial born of sudden catastrophe. These are not stately deaths. These are sudden, chaotic obliterations of life. The silence of the fossil here takes on a chilling quality, holding within it the echoes of panicked squawks, the desperate flailing of limbs, the slow, inescapable encroachment of suffocating mud. We might imagine the very last gasps of these creatures, air replaced by earth, light by darkness, their final, terrible struggle now immortalized as a monument to helplessness. Then there are the more subtle indicators of impending doom that exist within the fossil record, pointing to wider, more existential threats. Picture the world just before the end of the Cretaceous period. The vibrant life, the enormous dinosaurs, all moving under an ancient sun. But if we could examine the fossil record of those final millennia with enough scrutiny, what might we see? Perhaps slight changes in the sizes of certain creatures, subtle skeletal abnormalities appearing with greater frequency, indicators of environmental stress, dwindling resources, or shifting ecosystems. While not immediately scary in the sense of a gaping wound, these subtle signals, discovered in layers of rock like pages of a diary, narrate a slow gathering crisis, an epoch-ending vulnerability for a world that seemed immutable. This brings us to a phenomenon so rare it still takes the breath away, the preservation of what we might call living contexts. Imagine finding a dinosaur, perhaps a small feathered theropod, perfectly preserved in a chunk of amber. Amber, the fossilized resin of ancient trees, often encapsulates insects, plant fragments, and other small organisms in exquisite detail. But to find a portion of a dinosaur in amber, a foot, a tail, a section of skin, is truly miraculous. In these fragments we can sometimes glimpse not just the structure of bone, but the texture of feathers, the pigmentation of scales, the minute wrinkles of skin. The preservation is so complete, so lifelike, that it defies our common understanding of fossils as merely stone. Such a find is less about violence and more about the unnerving immediacy of time travel. The detail is so refined that it presents a ghostly reality, a living apparition trapped within the golden resin. You might see individual barbules of a feather, perfectly arrayed, hinting at iridescent colours long vanished. The smooth, supple texture of a small creature's foot, almost warm with an echo of ancient blood. It is beautiful, astonishing, but it also evokes a profound sense of loss. It's like peering into the past through a crystal window, seeing not a drawing, but the thing itself halted in its final moment. And this vivid, immediate presence of the utterly vanished can be profoundly, quietly disturbing in its revelation of what once was and what now is not. It whispers of an immense chasm of time, now bridged by a fragment. Think also of the unique scenarios where an entire embryo or fetal skeleton is discovered, still nestled within its ancient egg. We peer into a tiny world that was poised for life but never quite reached it. A small, delicate skeleton, curled in the protective shell, hinting at the potential of a vast, roaring future that was silently extinguished before it even began. These finds are profoundly touching, offering a universal connection to the genesis of life. Yet they also carry a melancholy weight, the untold story of a creature whose journey was over before it ever took its first breath in the ancient air. The potentiality, so starkly evident in its complete, though tiny form, makes its demise, however ancient, profoundly poignant. The meticulous examination of these embryos can reveal a hidden history. The small bones, perfectly formed, show that these magnificent creatures were fully developed within their eggs before hatching. And if abnormalities are found within these unborn dinosaurs, a deformity, a sign of genetic stress, it can again quietly whisper of hidden struggles, even at the very earliest stages of their lives, far from the dramatic hunts or battles. It hints that the journey of existence was fraught with challenges from the absolute beginning, a struggle inherent in the very blueprint of life. Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't a direct sign of violence or suffering, but rather the sheer indifference of time and nature to existence itself, as evidenced by patterns in fossilization. Imagine a great beast, a sauropod, that dies a peaceful death by the edge of a great ancient river. Its enormous body, instead of being torn apart by scavengers, is gently swept into the soft riverbed, then quickly covered by layer upon layer of fine sediment. Over millions of years, the river shifts, seasons pass, land rises and falls. The enormous bones mineralize, transforming slowly into stone. What emerges after all that time is a skeletal mount of staggering completeness, an almost perfect articulation. The fossil, in its silent magnificence, reveals how the animal looked in life, every bone in its rightful place. But the chilling truth isn't just about its beauty, but about the profound passive mechanism of its preservation. For every one of these perfect skeletons, countless billions of other lives simply vanished without a trace, chewed by scavengers, scattered by currents, dissolved by the chemistry of earth and water, their stories lost to time. The completeness of a few is a stark reminder of the immeasurable vastness of what has been utterly erased. It's a silent lottery, a grand cosmic game, where only an infinitesimal fraction of life wins the chance for remembrance, even as a pile of stones. The sheer, overwhelming silence of those countless forgotten existences is the real terror here, the incomprehensible loss within the abyss of geological time. Consider the landscape of Hell Creek, now a vast expanse of Montana Badlands. But 66 million years ago, it was a thriving deltaic floodplain, rich with life, where Tyrannosaurus rex hunted Triceratops, and myriad other creatures teemed. This location is extraordinary not just for its fossils, but for the story the layers of rock themselves tell, culminating in an almost impossibly precise moment, the KPG boundary. This is the thin, distinct layer of sediment found across the globe that records the impact event of a massive asteroid. Within the sediments just below this boundary, there's a tapestry of life. Just above it, an undeniable, sudden, profound shift. It's not just the suddenness of the asteroid itself, for the dinosaur fossil isn't the asteroid. It's the silent witness within the strata. Picture the creatures alive moments before the sky erupted in fire, then darkness, then chilling cold. While specific fossils, at the moment of impact, are incredibly rare, the overwhelming absence of non-avian dinosaur fossils above this narrow band of impact ejecta is one of the most chilling scientific truths. It's a silence so vast, so complete, that it resonates through the ages. The terrifying narrative is that of life flourishing, then abruptly, devastatingly, ending, captured not in a single dramatic scene, but in the layered testimony of an entire planet. The scariest thing is the simple, crushing finality represented by that geological line. No matter how majestic, how dominant, how seemingly invincible a lineage may be, there exists a cosmic fragility, an existential vulnerability that can render all endeavors moot in a single devastating instant. This boundary represents not just the end of an era for giant reptiles, but a moment of profound reset for our planet's biosphere. A resculpting on a global scale, the detailed analysis of these layers, revealing the minute presence of extraterrestrial iridium, altered pollen grains, and microscopic shards of rock, indicative of immense shock waves, collectively contribute to a deep, unsettling feeling. It speaks to a force so overwhelming, so absolute, that it rearranged the very composition of Earth's surface and atmosphere. The story of what happened to the creatures found beneath that line, the ones who never crossed it into the new world, is one of immense and silent grief for a world extinguished. Sometimes what we discover within a dinosaur fossil isn't even organic at all. Think about the unique finds that shed light on processes beyond the life and death of the animal, yet are intricately tied to it. Consider the occasional discovery of what are known as gastroliths, stomach stones. These are highly polished, smooth stones found in the abdominal cavities of certain dinosaurs. Just as some modern birds swallow grit to aid digestion, some dinosaurs likely did the same. These gastroliths, often beautifully coloured, worn smooth by eons of tumbling in an ancient gizzard, aren't directly scary. But what is haunting about them is their persistent, enduring presence. Imagine the immense animal, lumbering through a riverbed, carefully selecting specific stones, swallowing them. These inert rocks, swallowed by instinct, became an integral part of its internal mechanics. They moved with it, helped it to grind tough vegetation, travelled through its gut system for decades. And upon the dinosaur's death and fossilization, there they remain, exactly where the animal carried them. Not bones of prey, not signs of struggle, but simply tools, internal companions, carried faithfully throughout a long life. The strange part is how personal this connection is. These aren't just bits of earth, they are fragments of the very ground the dinosaur walked on, consumed, carried inside, and ultimately was buried with. It's a quiet intimacy with an inert object, making these stones profoundly personal artifacts, small windows into the unseen rituals and inner worlds of creatures long gone. Perhaps the deepest, most pervasive, scariest element isn't a specific wound or an individual tragedy, but the collective tapestry woven by these detailed revelations. It's the realization that these were not mere monsters or simple, instinctive beings. They were complex biological entities, subject to pain, disease, struggle, and loss, just as much as any creature walking the earth today. The scary part becomes a shared, ancient vulnerability, the knowledge that despite their titanic size, their evolutionary success spanning tens of millions of years, they too were fragile. Their existence a delicate dance with forces both internal and external. We peer into the shattered fragments of an ancient life. A broken jaw, a tumorous bone, a final death grip in sediment, and we are forced to confront the immense scale of time that separates us. And yet, paradoxically, the enduring constants of life and death that connect us. The feeling that these intimate secrets of agony and survival are being unveiled, that we are seeing things that no living eye from that epoch ever observed, can be profoundly moving and slightly overwhelming. It's the silent testimony, the quiet insistence of stone to hold its painful narratives, that makes these discoveries echo through the present, inviting us to reflect with a touch of quiet wonder upon the deep, long story of life itself, in all its raw, relentless, and occasionally terrifying beauty. We are left, then, with not just a skeletal diagram, but a portrait of lived experience, a creature that knew triumph, struggle, pain, resilience, and ultimately, an end. The scariest thing, truly, is how much we learn of their world by piecing together these intimate whispers from stone, slowly uncovering the ancient rhythms of an existence both utterly alien and strikingly familiar, revealing that life, in any age, in any form, is a magnificent, perilous journey, full of challenges and an often silent, relentless, beautiful struggle to endure. We close our eyes and imagine that immense vanished world, knowing now, with deeper reverence, that it held not just titans, but individuals who bore scars, ailments, and fierce desires, whose echoes now drift softly from the pages of time. And when we step back from the individual echoes we've unearthed, from the whispered secrets held within stone, a deeper understanding begins to unfurl itself, much like the slow opening of a fern frond in the cool light of dawn. The fragments, which might at first seem isolated, a bone scarred by a parasite, the chilling outline of a final meal, the silent testament to an unforeseen catastrophe, they all begin to shimmer with a quiet, unifying thread. They speak not just of dinosaurs, but of the very pulse and pattern of life itself, extending across an unimaginably vast ocean of time. Looking across all of this, we start to perceive something fundamental about existence, something that transcends the scales and roar of ancient giants, something that resonates within the quieter chambers of our own being. The particular moment we explored, the instant captured in hardened earth that once stirred a deep sense of unease, now settles into a broader narrative. It reminds us that vulnerability, adaptation, the delicate balance between predator and prey, the subtle yet relentless pressures of environment, these are not novel concepts confined to our brief human story. They are ancient, persistent echoes woven into the fabric of life from its earliest stirrings, played out with majestic indifference long before our species walked this earth. In the quiet spaces between these moments, we can almost hear the soft turning of the great cosmic wheel, the struggles for survival, the sudden, unyielding termination of a life, the intricate dance of an ecosystem. These elements, so starkly preserved, do not diminish the majesty of these creatures. Rather, they lend them a profound depth, reminding us that even the most formidable beings were subject to the universal currents that govern all life. They felt the cold grip of circumstance, the ache of injury, the existential threat from another, just as creatures do today, and as perhaps even our own distant ancestors did in the primeval forests. This realization isn't meant to provoke a sense of dread, but rather a quiet, profound connection. It's a humbling thought, a bridge built not of stone and mortar, but of shared biological imperatives across millions upon millions of years. The world that fostered these leviathans, with its vibrant forests and thundering plains, was a world both beautiful and brutal, teeming with the same delicate interdependencies we witness around us. The scariest fragments, the ones that first catch our breath, ultimately become potent symbols of this interwoven reality, a reminder that life, in all its forms, is a testament to resilience, ever striving, ever changing, yet perpetually subject to the same fundamental laws of beginning and ending. And so, as we allow our minds to drift across these vast geological timescales, the specific fears or shocks embodied in those ancient discoveries gently transform. They become less about a singular, terrifying event, and more about the universal saga of living things. Consider the relentless push and pull of energy within an ecosystem. When one life is ended, even by an act of violence or disease, that energy flows onward, nurturing new life. The very scariest evidence of a parasite's ancient grip or a predator's final act is, in a way, a testament to the efficient, cyclical nature of a thriving world. It illustrates that even within the confines of fear and struggle, there lies an unwavering flow, an uninterrupted cycle of birth, growth, decline, and rebirth. It's a somber, perhaps, but ultimately peaceful reflection on the ecosystem as a whole, a grand tapestry where every thread, no matter how briefly or violently cut, contributes to the overall strength and pattern. This contemplative journey also calls upon us to reflect on the nature of time itself. The unfathomable stretches that separate us from these magnificent beasts are truly humbling. We often speak of hundreds or thousands of years with a certain ease, but to truly grasp the meaning of millions, tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of years requires a surrender to something beyond immediate comprehension. These fossils, particularly those capturing such dramatic moments, act as small luminous portals, allowing us to glimpse flashes of a reality that once was, for a period far, far longer than all of recorded human history. In this way, the seemingly scariest aspects become paradoxically beautiful in their ability to pierce through the veil of time. They are not merely objects, they are storytellers, their petrified forms whispering tales of lives lived, hunts endured, diseases overcome or succumbed to. The profound depth of time they represent humbles our contemporary concerns, placing them within a larger, more eternal context. It's a gentle reminder that our present moment, however vivid and pressing, is but one tiny wave on an immense, ancient ocean. This perspective can bring a profound sense of calm, dissolving anxieties into the grand, unfolding panorama of cosmic history. Ultimately, these ancient discoveries offer us more than just biological facts or anatomical details. They invite us into a deeper dialogue about meaning, about the human desire to understand our place in the continuum of life. Why do these particular preserved moments, those hinting at primal struggles and unforeseen ends, resonate so deeply within us? Perhaps it is because they tap into a shared ancestral memory, an instinctive recognition of life's fragility, its unpredictable turns. Or perhaps it is simply because the spectacle of an enormous creature meeting its fate, especially through a lens that magnifies its vulnerability, stirs a unique kind of wonder, a blending of awe, empathy, and perhaps a quiet reflection on our own transience. The act of unearthing these narratives, of meticulously cleaning away millennia of stone to reveal a preserved predator's strike, or the tragic imprint of an ancient illness, is itself a profound act of connection. It's a testament to the human spirit of inquiry, the relentless drive to piece together the puzzles of the past, not to exploit them, but to learn from them, to integrate them into our evolving understanding of life on Earth. There is immense beauty in this quiet detective work, in the patience and dedication required to bring these echoes of ancient struggles back into the light. It demonstrates a form of gentle reverence, honouring these lost lives by granting them new meaning within our contemporary understanding. And as we observe how these distinct narratives from the deep past weave together, we begin to perceive a grander, more elegant tapestry. The single, scariest threads, rather than standing out as jarring disruptions, become integral parts of the overall pattern. They highlight the intricate, often unforgiving processes that have shaped life on Earth for billions of years: decay, competition, predation, disease. These are not failures of a system, but rather inherent components of its enduring success, perpetually driving adaptation, selecting for strength, and ensuring a vibrant, dynamic ebb and flow of biodiversity. In this context, the moments we initially deemed unsettling become profound lessons in the elegant, if sometimes ruthless, efficiency of natural systems. Consider the notion of preservation itself. What exactly is preserved when we find such poignant, even frightening fossilized scenes? It is not merely the bone, or the trace of a soft tissue, or the unique pattern of a bite mark. It is a moment, a singular, irreducible instant frozen in geological amber. These preserved moments of profound vulnerability become windows not just into prehistoric biology, but into the very nature of existence, its finite quality, its capacity for suffering. And yet, paradoxically, its ceaseless continuation. The narratives etched in stone, then, invite us to look not with fear, but with a deeper, more grounded understanding. They reassure us that life, in its fundamental essence, remains remarkably constant, even as its forms mutate and diversify across the eons. The struggle to find nourishment, to avoid danger, to reproduce and thrive, these are timeless imperatives. The specific forms these struggles take may change, from colossal reptiles to delicate insects, but the underlying rhythms of life and death, triumph and challenge remain eternal. This gentle unfurling of perspective offers a quiet solace. The very concept of something being scary often implies a personal threat, a rupture in our perceived safety. But when we view these ancient happenings through the lens of deep time and universal biological process, the edge softens. What was once a source of apprehension transforms into a wellspring of quiet contemplation, even a kind of bittersweet wisdom. We are allowed to witness these moments from a safe distance, not as participants, but as observers, receiving their silent lessons with respect and reverence. In this expansive view, the interconnectedness of all things becomes beautifully clear. The fossilized footprint of a predator leads us to consider the swift steps of its prey. The evidence of a parasitic infection makes us wonder about the entire host organism's ecosystem. The remnants of a violent end prompt thoughts about the cycle of decay and the return of nutrients to the earth. Each thread, however scary its initial appearance, weaves seamlessly into a much grander, infinitely complex design. Ultimately, then, our journey into the deepest recesses of paleontological discovery has not led us to dwell on fear, but rather to an enriched understanding of life's persistent presence. The scariest aspects of dinosaur fossils serve as profound reminders of resilience, adaptation, and the humbling perspective of deep time. They reveal the sheer beauty of Earth's ceaseless biological narrative, a story in which every moment, however startling or brief, contributes to the timeless grandeur of existence. And in that quiet revelation, perhaps we find a gentle understanding of our own small, precious part in this ongoing, majestic unfolding. And so, as the final embers softly glow in the hearth of our shared understanding, and the last wisps of the story gently fade into the stillness, we find ourselves at the quiet close of an extraordinary journey. We have voyaged through an immensity of time, charting courses across seas of primordial epochs, and descending into the deepest stratifications of Earth's ancient heart. We dared to peer into the preserved remnants of a world so utterly unlike our own, touching the edges of what, to us, might have seemed truly formidable, even, for a fleeting moment, fearsome. Yet, as the immediate chill of ancient awe dissipates, leaving only the warmth of contemplation, we come to recognize a profound truth. What was once a living, breathing testament to an unforgiving struggle, to the raw and untamed power of the Mesozoic, now rests peacefully as a marvel of geological artistry. The scariest thing we contemplated, that whisper of an alien world locked in stone, is no longer a source of unease, but rather a profound invitation to wonder. It has transformed, with the passage of ages and the gentle hand of discovery, into a narrative of humbling scale, a testament to life's tenacious persistence across an unfathomable span of time. Perhaps the true awe, the real gentle shiver, comes not from the perceived terror of these ancient relics, but from the sheer immensity of the silence that has gathered around them for millions upon millions of years. Imagine, if you will, the world itself turning slowly on its axis, year after year, epoch after epoch, while these grand creatures lived, died, and eventually became woven into the very fabric of the planet beneath us. The echoes of their roars, the thunder of their steps, the desperate rustle of ancient foliage, all these have long since been absorbed by the deep quiet of geological time, leaving only these exquisite stony whispers for us to uncover in our tranquil present. It is in this profound quiet that we find perspective. The vastness of prehistory reminds us that our moment, fleeting and precious as it is but a single breath in the colossal inhale and exhale of cosmic time. These fossils, those scary remnants, are not here to alarm us, but to ground us, to offer a humbling sense of our place in the grand tapestry of being. They remind us that life, in all its myriad forms and across all its transformations, is a continuous, unfolding miracle. From the humblest microbe to the most magnificent leviathan of the deep past, each organism, each species has played its vital role, its singular note in the great symphony of existence. And in considering this symphony, in allowing our minds to wander back to those distant horizons, we might also feel a quiet reassurance. The struggles and triumphs of these bygone creatures, their very being and dissolution, have shaped the very earth we walk upon. Their stories are not tales of ultimate demise, but rather of fundamental transformation. They became the mountains, the strata, the minerals that enrich our soil, the carbon that forms the foundation of life as we know it. In this way, they never truly vanished, but rather transmuted, contributing their very essence to the perpetual dance of planetary creation. So, as we gently release the hand of history, and return to the comforting embrace of our own time. We carry with us not fear, but a deeper reverence. We've peered through the window of eons, glimpsed a truly wild and powerful past, and found within it not just wonder, but also a serene acceptance of the natural order, the relentless churn of life and death, predator and prey, the gentle carving away of continents, and the slow rise of new forms, all contribute to a magnificent, unhurried rhythm that has always been, and will always be. Perhaps the most comforting thought, in the quiet after contemplating such immensity, is that we are here now. We are the inheritors of this grand narrative, the quiet observers with the unique capacity to piece together these ancient puzzles. To hold a fossil, even a formidable one, is to hold time itself, condensed and smoothed, no longer threatening, but profoundly insightful. It is to touch a tangible link to a primordial force, now perfectly still, a relic whispering of the boundless patience of the earth. Let this reflection sink gently into your thoughts as the day's journey concludes, and the world outside softens into twilight or deep night. Let the echo of ancient seas and the rustle of fern forests dissolve into the gentle quietude of your surroundings. Consider how even the grandest, most fearsome expressions of life eventually surrender to the embrace of eternity, leaving behind only echoes, stories, and the quiet dignity of their preserved forms. There is a deep, profound peace in this surrender, a testament to the unhurried processes that shape not only worlds, but also the very contours of our understanding. In the end, after all our delving into deep time and contemplating the raw essence of prehistory, what remains is a beautiful sense of contentment. The universe does not rush, it breathes. And in its breathing it crafts both spectacular vibrancy and exquisite stillness. We are fortunate indeed to be granted a moment to witness even a fraction of this sublime process. Let this knowledge be a soothing balm, settling your mind, easing any lingering thoughts of the day, and preparing you for rest. As you settle into wherever you are, whether it's the quiet comfort of your own space or the gentle hush of the hour, know that the vast and ancient narrative continues to unfold, one geological whisper at a time. The world, in all its magnificent complexity, holds countless such stories, waiting patiently for our quiet contemplation. Until our paths gently cross again in this tranquil haven of learning and wonder, may your journey be peaceful, your reflections profound, and your rest utterly serene. Rest well, beloved dreamer, in the grand ancient quiet of our extraordinary planet.